What is up, everybody? Tech Chucker here, and today we're going to take a look at the Marvel Legends Civil War Giant Man Wave Nuke figure. Now, this is a really cool figure. I'm super happy that I grabbed it. I will note that I have kind of been cooling on the Marvel Legends for a little while. I was just I'm just getting a little bit bored with the reused parts and whatnot. Uh, and then I went ahead and grabbed this because Amazon had it on sale for like 11 bucks. And I'm really happy. I'm glad that I grabbed this. They've got a lot of really nice detail. There's some new sculpt work throughout the figure. So I'm happy I grabbed it. And you should be too if you happen to grab it as well. But let's crack this thing open and take a closer look at what we've got. All right, let's get this party started with the articulation on this figure. Pretty well standard for a Marvel Legends, but I'm super happy with it. His head is on a ball peg and there is a hinge, and he can look up pretty much all the way, and he can look all the way down, get that chin into his chest, which is awesome. Side to side action. Vest doesn't get in the way, which is great. He's got a little bit of tilt also. That's awesome. So you can get a little bit of emotion in those poses. So that's awesome. His shoulders are on a ball peg and he's got a hinge and he can move his arm above his shoulder, which is awesome. He's got full rotation of the arm as well. And then he's got an upper bicep swivel, no problems there. Double jointed elbows. He can get over 90 degrees, which is great. And then he's got a peg joint in the wrist and a hinge, and there's no hindrance of the articulation there. So overall, the arms are great. Happy with the articulation there. In the torso, he has a hinge joint, which has a good range of motion, but you're going to pop that vest open if you're going to try and activate that, and that's okay. I'm happy with it. It's pretty well expected. The vest is somewhat soft, so his back arch, he can move back a decent amount. I believe it's about one click, so no issues there. And that vest just pegs back in right at the belt, so that's pretty good. He has a waist swivel, no problems there. Those belts kind of cover that up, which is great. In the hips, he's got T-jointed ball hip or ball joints, and he can do the splits almost entirely, which is pretty awesome, especially for a Marvel Legends figure. So I'm really happy with the articulation there. And then he can kick forward. He can't get it all the way up. The pouch kind of gets in the way. See if the other one, yeah, it's still kind of hindered. And then backwards, he can actually get a decent amount of backwards motion. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. He's got an upper thigh swivel that works really well. It's hidden pretty nicely with the sculpt. Double jointed knees, and those work relatively well. He can get just over 90-degree bend. And then there is an upper boot swivel right at the boot, and that works pretty well, and it's hidden nicely. And then in the ankle, he's got a hinge joint, which works really well going back. Not too bad going forward, but could be better. And then there is an ankle pivot, and that works super well. So overall, I'm really happy with the articulation on this Nuke figure. As usual, Hasbro has done a really good job with it. The sculpt of this figure is really nice, and we're going to take a look at the head sculpt first. And I really like the way that they sculpted this head. I like the flat top hair, the grimace on the face. It looks really nice. The ear, there's actually some pretty good detail on those ears. So the hair, I would say I'd like to see a little bit more texture in that hair. But since they didn't put any paint on it, that's whatever. But this vest, I don't know if this is a new vest or not, but it looks really cool. There's really nice detail throughout with the shotgun shells and the grenades on there, and the pouches that are all sculpted in there. There's just really nice detail on that. And then moving down into the belts and the legs, there's also tons of detail with the wrinkles, and the boots have the laces all sculpted in. So there's a lot of texture throughout this figure, even on the back. So on the back of this, he's got the scabbard or the sheath for his knife, and there's some nice detail work on the back of the actual vest, some buckles and whatnot. So I'm really, really happy with the sculpt of this figure. We do see this, quite a bit of this reused on Cable, which comes after this figure or this wave. So, and we've talked about that already, what I think of that. I really like the sculpt of this figure. I think it's really well done. I don't know about the actual chest piece, the torso, if we've seen that before or not. Like I said, I don't have a huge collection yet, but I think we have seen this before. Either way, it's a great sculpt. It's a tall figure. No complaints with the sculpt. As far as the paint goes, I think they did a really good job with the paint. There are a few areas where I wish they would have had a little bit more paint, but overall, I think they did a great job. So looking at the face first, there's really nice detail. You can see the stars are individually painted, and they're actually stars, which is cool. The stripes are nice. Like I said before, I wish there was some shading in the hair. But moving down into the vest, the shotgun shells are painted with the gold and whatnot. It'd be nice if there was some shading on those grenades, but the actual vest itself has some really nice shading on it to give it that extra texture. The buckles, lots of the buckles are painted, not all of the buckles, not all of the buttons. Most of the buttons aren't painted, but most of the buckles are. You can see on the legs, some of those straps have some green bleeding into them and a little bit of brown and some silver kind of is bleeding around and kind of messy. There's no paint really on the boots. You might not be able to tell in this video, but there really is no paint on this. So that would be nice to get a little bit of extra paint to give the boots a little bit more of that wow factor. But the rest of the figure is painted really well. Like I said, even the back of his vest and the pouches, they're all painted really nicely. The skin tone is cast, I believe, in this white skin. And it's really nicely done. There's no shading on it, but I really don't think that it's necessary for this particular figure. Where they put paint, I think they did really well. It is a little bit messy, so it certainly could be a little bit better. And Nuke comes with a couple of really cool accessories, and we will get started with the alternate head that he comes with, which I think is probably the best accessory that he has. Now, this is basically a cyborg head, and he's got some of the skin missing from his face, so you can actually see the robotic skull through that, and they did a really good job of that. They painted it really nicely. You can see his chin. There's a little bit of the metal skull coming through the skin. They knocked this one out. They took the hair off. And so they did a really good job. They painted it well. They sculpted it well. It looks amazing, and it looks really good on this figure. I will probably be displaying him with this head instead of the flat top one. If I can get this to focus, there we go. Doesn't that look good? Boy, that looks great. Yeah, it just looks awesome. Now, he also comes with this rifle, which we've seen before from the AIM soldier and quite possibly another figure elsewhere. It's got a really nice sculpt. There's a lot of nice detail. It's painted relatively cleanly. He's got the American colors scheme with silver instead of white, but it fits nicely in his hand. There is no trigger finger. I haven't gotten around to taking my X-Acto to cut that and make it into a trigger finger. So it doesn't fit that great in his hand without that trigger finger. But it's a nice enough gun. But it doesn't look right without that trigger finger. Now, the accessory that I am going to work with him or pose him with is this knife, which I was just showing you. He's got the scabbard. The knife is sculpted really, really well. I've heard that this knife we've seen before. I don't have a figure that has it. It's painted really well with the black metal and then the silver blade. I really like the green in the handle. There's a little bit of what I believe to be maybe there's some paint in the actual grip, but that's a sculpted grip. It's not not just painted for that detail. And he looks really well with this, or really well. He looks really good with this knife, and he holds it really well, if I can get it in there. So it's good and tight. So this is definitely the accessory that I'm going to pose him with. The gun's probably going to the gun's going to wind up going in my accessory bin, probably to be forgotten and lost. But overall, I'm really happy with the accessories that we did get. Mainly because that alternate head is so good, and the knife is it's a good pairing with this figure. Overall, this is a better than average figure. I'm really happy that I grabbed him. I think he's still around 11 bucks, at least at the time of recording this review. So make sure if you haven't already gotten him, go get him. And I'd pay 15 bucks for him. If I really wanted him, I'd probably pay full price for him as well, because this is a really, really good figure. Hasbro actually did a good job with the paint and the sculpt, and the articulation is really, really good. So go out and get them. You're not going to be disappointed. Alrighty, so make sure you hit subscribe, stay tuned for more, and I will see you later.
Tech Checkers Brain Blast.